top notch too. And so, but you got to keep adding to it. As guys get a little bit older and move on, you better be replenishing.
When you want the latest on your favorite teams, tune into your hometown radio station, Sports Radio 810 WHB. Isn't this a sports show?
You're the Ben Roethlisberger of
I don't want to be the Ben Roethlisberger of anything.
Sports radio Twitter? Just blocking people out here?
Almost entirely.
People who have never even heard of you just like will go to your account and say, yeah, he's blocking something.
Could I
So
be
who's Antonio Brown here?
Also, Josh?
That's what I thought the answer was going to be.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Am I also Le'Veon Bell?
Probably.
And can I also be Mike Tomlin? Like, it's also me that's barely holding it all together in a fragile ecosystem.
Yeah, it is just the 2018 Pittsburgh
2018 Steelers.
All inside it.
Is Rudy James Conner, or is that also you?
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Huzzah! I'm not an idiot yet. You just weren't me saying huzzah, I'm not an idiot yet?
Yes.
That feels right.
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The spring and summer can be kind of an interesting time for Almost Entirely Sports because very often the only team playing professional sports, not the only team I guess, but the top line team playing professional sports in Kansas City, very oftentimes they're playing their games while we are doing radio shows. And so only in certain occasions can we truly begin an edition of Almost Entirely Sports talking about the Kansas City Royals.
Who?
It is something that we really have to pick our moments there. But on a day like today, we are given the opportunity because of a day game. You know, it's all wrapped up and all taken care of well before we end up hitting the airwaves here tonight. And so on a day like today, you turn on wherever you're finding a way to watch the Royals, you know, do your best, take your shot, see if you can figure it out, maybe prepare to pay $20 a month, whatever it may be. You just turn it on and you say, all right, let's see if we're going to get some baseball on the show tonight. And then 2 recorded outs later, you realize, oh no, tonight's not going to be a baseball night either. But by choice and not by necessity, that's the difference in tonight's show.
I think we're at the point where Chris Bubich is on the mound. It might just not be a Royals night.
Yeah, or day.
It has went as horrible for him as it could go for anybody, right? Especially for a guy that has the high floor, right? Maybe the low ceiling, but the high floor.
We definitely have talked about that for Chris Bubich before. That maybe as we're going to spend most of tonight's show talking about the Chiefs draft, just to be clear, don't anybody go flipping the dial just yet. We will spend the vast majority of tonight's show talking about the NFL draft. Kent Swanson's going to join us in like 10 minutes. We'll talk to him about why he and everybody at KCSN loves this draft so much.
JT on Twitch says, we count on you to make good choices. Oh, JT. Oh, JT.
I will say that you please don't count on us to make good choices, but do understand that we will make a good one tonight by not dwelling on the Royals. Because, yeah, I mean, it's just been there have just been a number of disastrous outings for Chris Bubich. Now, I don't want to. I like him. I like his tools. I like to think that at some point he will be ready to be a professional rotational starting pitcher. He's not that guy right now, and this group has more guys who aren't that guy than more guys that are.
I'm out on Daymore. I've said that, I think, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm just officially out on Daymore. Again, right, there are some positive things about this team. Brett Keller looks great.
Great.
Daniel Lynch has shown like some of that promise.
Absolutely.
Bobby Witt is clearly getting better.
Hitting dingers now.
And MJ Melendez through 2 games looks like he belongs. Right? Like
Zach Greinke's still out here, still looking pretty good.
He's still
looking like good old Zach Greinke. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Now,
not height of his powers, but still fun.
Witt and Salvi forgot how to hit a baseball.
Not great.
Not great. Not ideal. But you know what's good for that? If you're struggling and you're pressing, you know what you do? Just keep throwing them out there every day. I talked about this with Sterling, and I'm filling in, running the board for his show. I actually like Mike Matheny generally. I part of that is like baseball managers I don't think can do a lot to negatively, or you know what I mean? Like there's little that they can do. This is just like one of those things though where it's just like
try it.
I understand, because what's the alternative? It's not great, but at some point you just got to try something different.
You got a lot of games to play with here. Just try anything else.
Just try something different.
And this is where I'm at. I know that this is where I've in some ways been at since like whatever it was, game 2 or 3 or 4 of the season. Like opening day was like look at all this. No, because opening day was fun. Don't pretend like I didn't have fun on opening day.
Yeah, that's true. You were hyped.
I was feeling it on opening day. And this is the other thing that I want to make sure is clear here. I get no joy from being bored with the Royals. And I also understand that it is early May. Happy May the 4th. Everyone, May the 4th be with you.
I don't get it.
It's a Star Trek thing. Yeah, do the little, it's like the little V hand and the stick. I think the thumb goes out. I think you're closer to the Hunger Games thing there. I'll do the Hunger Games. You do the Star Trek. I bet there's some people currently doing a hand gesture to their general radios or phones or whatever. But I understand that it's early. I understand that the story of what's most interesting about this team will not be established for months still. Like, the lasting impact of this season, one way or the other, is going to be about what happens when Brady Singer does get rotational starts, what Bobby Witt does do over the course of an entire year. I'm just telling you that right now, man, I'm having a hard time feeling anything for what we're seeing. And this is, again, so I get no joy out of it. This is not personal. There are some interesting both people and players. I'm making that, in both categories on this team. I love a ton of the people that cover this team. But man, like I just feel like I keep going back to the same restaurant. I keep ordering the same thing, and they keep giving me a stale version of it that feels like it was baked up 3 days ago, and then I eat it, and I go, I really got to stop coming back here. And you go back, you immediately look, hey, they had 100 more chances to impress you, 120 more chances to impress you with their better cooking someday this year. I'll say, awesome. Whenever that happens, feel free to let me know. But in the meantime, I'm going to stop ordering from there and expecting that this time when I go through the drive-thru, they'll get my order right. It's not Bobby Witt's fault. It's not Brad Keller's fault. Hell, on some level, it's not Chris Bubich's fault. Don't yell at me because I can't bring myself to be excited about going through this drive-thru again, to be handed the same stale order that I've been getting since 2016. Like, it's been almost a decade since we had fun baseball to talk about. There was a time in my life. Good baseball, not fun. There's been some fun moments, but it's been almost a decade of getting the same stuff.
Time in my life where baseball was my favorite sport. Like, baseball was my number one, and it was.
That's why this hurts, I think.
Yeah, and it was for a long time. And I'm just at the point now where I have a hard time caring when the Royals are on TV. And again, it's not because they have nothing. Because again, Brad Keller's pitching really good. Like Brad, if you are trying to have hope for the future, it's that. Besides last year, Brad Keller wasn't great, but 2 of Brad Keller's last 3 seasons, he has looked like a top of the rotation starter, right? And that could be something you build around, right? Like, Bobby Witt is starting to show flashes of being the guy that we all think. Like, there's plenty to still be excited about, and there's still, a dozen or so guys, it feels like, in the minor leagues who we're going to see. But I have just lost so much faith in just the organization, just from the top. And it's not everybody in it, right? Like, JJ Picoult has been a GM for what is essentially
7 minutes.
Yes, right? Like, this is not a JJ Picoult is bad at his job. I also don't know fully the dynamic of what is Dayton Moore involved with and what is JJ Picoult involved with. It seems to be Dayton Moore's more of the big picture stuff, while JJ is more of the day-to-day stuff. That seems to be what it is, but I don't fully know that. But I also am just kind of at the point, like, as long as Dayton Moore is in the organization in a position of power, I just don't see this team fundamentally becoming anything different than what they are.
Different is the word that I was gonna use. I was hoping that you would just say, don't see them becoming good or better or whatever. And we spend too much time around each other. Because what I was going to interject as my own original thought, then you were 2 steps ahead of me, is that my concern isn't that this team can't be better than this or could never be 500 again or whatever. It's that I'm tired of this process. Like I don't know that without a significant change in leadership that this team can be different and procedurally different, result different, all of that. I just don't know. But here's the other thing about it, and this is if I was John Sherman right now, and I would have fewer problems because I would be John Sherman. So maybe
life would be pretty good.
No, I don't know that it's that bad if you're John Sherman. But if I was John Sherman right now, what I would be so disappointed to hear is that I'm sure he's a regular listener to Almost Entirely Sports.
Has been before he was the owner of the Royals, is my understanding.
Some would say that's why he wanted to get to Kansas City. I said, look, I want to buy the Royals because I would like to have an excuse to have Almost Entirely Sports talk about my baseball team. So, all right, John, if you insist.
We've put out the offers for him to come on. I just hear he's too shy.
Also,
it's like, never meet your heroes type of situation.
I get it. Well, look, maybe I can promise to give him like a really good first AES experience if he wants to just give us, I don't know what, Rudy, you think 2% of the team, we can split it?
You know what? I'm not greedy. I'll take 0.5%.
I'll take 1.5, so you can still give us 2.
Yeah, it works.
I was going to do that anyway. I didn't say split it 50-50. I just said split it.
That feels right.
But if I was John Sherman turning on the radio, I think what I would be upset about and disappointed by isn't that he's turning on the radio and he's hearing you say, "Man, I think maybe Dayton Moore just needs to go at this point, and the Royals need to try to do something different." If I was John Sherman, I turned on the radio. What I'd be pissed about is that every single week of April and May, we're spending more time talking about Leo Chanel than we are about Brad Keller.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're talking about day 2 and day 3 draft picks more than we're talking about the Royals' number 1 or number 2 starters at this point. That's why I go back to the food thing. It just all tastes stale in my mouth.
Justin Ross is a bigger story than all but like 3 Royals. Right? I mean, maybe it's 2. Maybe it's just the return of Zach Greinke and Bobby Witt Jr., right? Like, that might legitimately be it. And he's an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
And I get more excited talking about him than I do just about anybody on the Royals not named Bobby Witt Jr.,
And maybe, because I was thinking, well, are you and I biased on this? Because what I was going to say is we've got audio from Brett Veach from early yesterday. And we have audio from Mike Matheny post-game today.
We do?
We do.
Yeah, we do.
We do. But we're going to play Brett Veach audio tonight. We're not going to play Mike Matheny audio tonight. Mike Matheny can't say anything to me that's more interesting than what Brett Veach said yesterday. And again, I would say, well, are we the outliers? Are you and I the weirdos? We just do a lot of radio opposite baseball games. So we never talk about baseball. No, because you and I loved baseball at one point. This was a sport that we cared about, and I think the sport on a macro level and the Royals on a micro level are in just really bummer positions right now, and I'd rather talk about Darian Kennard.
Ice Pyro says this feels like a therapy session for them. Yeah, I honestly, like, that's kind of live radio to a degree, right? Like, I like frequently enough, like a rant, a topic, right? A back and forth is kind of like therapy, right? It's us getting whatever's on our chest off our chest.
Yeah, I mean, Ice Pyro's been around, so I mean this with no offense behind it, but Ice Pyro, first show? Oh, the open of this show sounds like Josh and Rudy going through a therapy session? Where we're gonna? I thought we would spend like
maybe they get it out now and they will stop for a month. Yeah, I mean 2 weeks seems pretty likely.
Yeah, we'll find out. What Pokemon are the 3 linebackers? Also a question from Ice Pyro. That's a great question. We're going to have to think about that. That one's going to require some more time. You want to talk about therapy sessions. At some point, Rudy's going to tell us the story of what his last 24 hours have been like.
Boy.
That was going to open the show here, but I thought we'd do a little Royals bit. And then as I was doing, I didn't even tell Rudy I was going to make a Royals thing at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I'm stunned that we did Royals for the
Well, I was going to basically just like crack open the top of that soda and then dump it down the drain. But then we found out that both of us still have hurt feelings about this baseball team.
Yeah.
And so now here we are. We'll get some real Rudy therapy in a little while. Do you have a Pokemon take? I mean Nick Bolton, they're all probably. I think maybe Nick Bolton's Maybe he's a ground type. Maybe Leo Chanel's a rock type. Maybe Willie Gay is like, I don't know, electric fire. Maybe I don't know.
So Wallaby says Golem might be Chanel, and that's not bad. I don't know if he's quite the athlete, but when I think of Leo Chanel, the one that really pops in my head, and this is not Gen 1. You know Hariyama? Big old fighting dude.
Yeah.
Kind of feels like Leo Chanel kind of feels like he might be the fighting type.
The fighting type is good.
Just
a good call.
Big old beefy fighting type.
Definitely. What does a Hariyama evolve from? I can't remember.
Makuhita.
I think he's that right now.
Ice Pirate says Willie Gay's Blaziken, and that's not bad.
Okay, so Willie Gay is Blaziken. I think Leo Chanel's definitely a fighting type. He writes Death Row Death Row on his arm in college. I mean, I feel like in Sharpie. Like I think there's something to that.
Yeah, it's just kind of also finding like a fighting type Pokemon that is both big and athletic, because Leo Chanel's a freak of an athlete.
This is a good question. S. Wallaby says Machoke. I kind of like that.
Ooh,
I think you want to want to allow some room for evolution, though.
I think
you
that's
know.
Fair.
So maybe he's a Machop right now. He's a rookie. He's a rookie. You know. I don't know. Which one has 4 arms?
Machamp.
I don't think he has 4 arms yet. He could earn that. Maybe he's a Machoke right now.
Might get there though.
Leo Chanel's a Machoke. That's my
I hope
offer.
he doesn't choke.
Yeah. Machoke, isn't that what Patrick Mahomes did in the AFC Championship game? I just wanted to get there before Twitch did.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk to our fire type, Kent Swanson of the KC Sports Network. He'll join us to talk about this Chiefs draft next.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
If you haven't gotten the context clues, it's Kent Swanson, now of the KC Sports Network, back in the building.
Yeah, it's the opportunity we've been waiting for to talk to you again. Finally, there's been some some restrictions there,
right?
And now I get to hang out with you again. It has been 3 years since I've been on this show.
Death is a big restriction.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
No restriction other than maybe a little minutes restriction here tonight. Kent Swanson of the KC Sports Network joins us. Of course, they had coverage all draft long. You can check that out. Plus, what they thought of the draft across all the network there, the KCSN Substack, the podcast, the newsletter, all sorts of things you can get. The homepage would be kcsportsnetwork.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Kent_Swanson, although I would say that's not necessary. Maybe follow Craig, Matt, BJ, and Tucker, and you'll pretty much get all the same ground covered.
Here's the thing. If you just follow KCSN, they'll retweet Kent's stuff.
That's
so you
great.
can see it without giving them the follow.
Yeah.
You can also do that. Just follow Sports Radio 810. You don't have to follow at JB Brisco either.
Well, it seems like we're at a bit of an impasse. So in the meantime, Kent, just walk me through what your level of rising excitement through the draft was, because I sort of imagine it being that Vince McMahon gif where like every few picks you just get one further level of just pure football arousal.
I made that exact joke in real life about how that draft was for me and for all of us at KCSN. And we did 16 live hours of coverage. Literally 16 straight live hours of coverage during the draft. And there were moments where we were clamoring for a pick, and then the pick happened for the Chiefs. Sky Moore, I think Karloftis, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, Isaiah Pacheco. They took a lot of guys that we really, really liked, and so it just continued to we levitated. Like a lot of these guys were like Maddie's guys, like our My Guy stamp.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of his guys too. It was incredible.
We're not going to get through like every angle of all of these guys in one segment, and so we'll just, I'm going to pencil you in for next week. We'll make some more ground up. But which one of them made you the happiest? Because that could be any round, any player. But when were you the most just over the moon?
I think it was Sky Moore, the receiver out of Western Michigan in round 2, because, the Chiefs had already addressed their two biggest positions. There's one glaring one, left on the board, and you're sitting there and you're looking at kind of the receivers left, and some guys kind of went off, the guys that went off right before him, I would have rather had Sky Moore. And so you see the Chiefs, they're sitting at 50, they're sitting pretty with a few receivers available to them. They moved back slightly to, which is just unbelievably smart. They move back, they get an extra pick, and they still wind up with, I think, the best receiver, better than Alex Pierce that they got, or that went right before him. And I just thought that was an absolutely brilliant move, and it could turn out that small little trade back winds up getting them their starting right tackle. I was freaking out when that whole Sky Moore scenario went down.
What is it about him that you like so much? Because it's funny, in a draft class and at a position that has been nationally put under a microscope, locally put under a microscope, I think the only top 10 receiver with any mystique around them is Sky Moore, or was coming into this process, because none of us have ever watched him play football live.
Speak for yourself, man. He was on ESPN from time to time.
I will speak for myself. I accidentally watched George Pickens play football on multiple occasions. I never saw a number 24 lined up wide anywhere ever.
I love that he's keeping the number, by the way.
I don't know.
I think it's perfect.
He's got to be good. He's got to be good. If you're a wide receiver and wearing number 24 and your best season you go for 450 yards, it's a bad look. If he's a number one, it's great.
He's going for 2,400 yards and 24 touchdowns.
As he should. There it is. Okay, now I'm
in his first year. All right, but here's the thing. So with Tyreek Hill out of the mix, right? Sky Moore is not a replacement for Tyreek Hill. I'm never going to ever say that. But when Tyreek Hill is out the window, you he fits in so perfectly as a guy that can kind of do a little bit of everything and is capable of winning in a lot of areas that the Chiefs now need help with. So he's a shorter guy, but he's not a small guy. So he's shown a little bit of an ability to beat press. You know, he can get off the line of scrimmage. He's pretty strong through contact and really good feet. He can locate the football, he can track. He's got good body control. So he's got some of those stuff. Like, you know, maybe you can use him a little bit outside, like Western Michigan did. But he's also the best slant runner in the entire draft class. And last I checked, the Chiefs love to throw slant routes to Tyreek Hill and RPOs.
I'm sorry, you said specifically the best slant runner in the draft class?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's make sure.
Yeah. I think he's the best slant runner in the entire class. And so, so Tyreek Hill runs all those slants on the RPOs. Okay, Sky Moore fits in. Got the long speed to run away from guys on those slants, which we've seen Tyreek Hill do in the past. So if you look at if you just isolate it to those two areas, like, you got to be thrilled about what, you know, Sky Moore brings to the table. But I think he's even got a little bit more route running ability and potential than, you know, beyond just that. But I just look at some of the defined strengths that he has already. I think there's a role for him to contribute and have a lot of success immediately, and there's a lot of ability there for him to develop even further.
Not to be a hater, but like, why was he there at 54? You know, where would you say, hey, if this doesn't work out, this is the thing I'm nervous about?
Well, I mean, he's a little bit smaller. I mean, some guys, you know, like, I mean, some teams are not going to like that.
Sure.
Some teams are not going to like, you know, a 5'9 3/4 receiver with 31-inch arms. Like, that's adequate length for me. But some guys are a little bit more, you know, picky. I mean, look at the guys that went right around him. It was bigger guys. It was George Pickens, a bigger receiver. It was Alex Pierce, a bigger receiver. So there's a little bit of that. I think you want to be in wider. Like, Tyquan Thornton has a trump card that the New England Patriots clearly wanted, that he was the fastest receiver in the class. So, like, you know, I think when you kind of get down there, there's reasons to pick some guys apart. There's some fit, you know, questions that you have to have. Maybe each individual team isn't necessarily looking for that guy. But for what the Chiefs got at 54, I think he was an absolutely perfect, you know, you couldn't have found anybody better, I don't think. We talk about George Pickens. I don't know if he was on their board when it's all said and done, because they actively passed him. You know, they passed up on him, and I think felt comfortable passing up on him to draft, you know, or to trade back. So, I don't know. I think there's a lot of really good qualities that he fits specifically with the Chiefs in areas that they need help, and that's probably a little bit of why I'm maybe more excited relative to some other people.
What would be the pick? Again, I mean, we're on a scale, so you can tell me how far this scale tips. What would be the pick that you would say you ended up with the most questions about? That you kind of grit through your teeth and go, well, I don't know. Like, was there anything that was even close to that here?
No. Like, that's what was so great. Like, I
crazy.
gave Brett Veach an A+, and you know how I felt about some of his drafts in the past, Joshua.
I do.
Like, I don't think there's not a pick where I'm, like, gritting my teeth and go, you blew it. I would say, you know, Brian Cook is probably the, like, lowest grade I would give on a pick. And, I mean, the safety out of Cincinnati went pick 62. But even then, like, I think there's a pretty clear role, and I understand the why behind what they did. Andy Reid, when I was listening back to some of the TV coverage, he went on NFL Network, and he was saying, you know, hey, Brian Cook's one of my favorite guys in this class. I didn't, you know, he had a shoulder thing, and if he didn't have a shoulder thing, I'm not sure that we would have been able to even get him, which, I mean, that tells you, you know, he must have crushed, you know, the pre-draft process, you know, a little bit more than, you know, he must have crushed, you know, the interviews and some of that kind of stuff, because, you know, there's limited athletic, you know, profile on him. And I mean, the tape's good. He's a good football player, but I don't know if he's got the same kind of ceiling or ability that some of these other guys do. But, I mean, Brian Cook, I still think there's a role for him to play immediately, and I think they're very excited and confident about him by all indications, which, you know, should give you some encouragement there too.
You said you understood the why, even for that pick, as maybe the one that you'd be the least amped about. And it's funny because that's where I started on Friday, where I understood the why of the first two picks in a way that I had not for any draft going back to at least, I think, Hardman and Thornhill. I understood why they ended up with those picks, right? But I talked about the logic of all that. I think that continued throughout days 2 and 3. I think there are a couple big picture potential takeaways. But did you have one that you went, oh, like there was a logic somewhere along this draft strategy? Did something jump out to you kind of big picture that way?
Sure, and I think that's the case with every single draft. Like, I think you can kind of look back and kind of get a decent idea and understand, okay, this makes sense. And I think that some of the themes here were, guys that love football, high football character guys, physical, tough football players, I think is the other thing. Because all the defensive, the first 5 picks specifically, we just look at the first 5 picks where, you got Trent McDuffie, George Kalafdis, Sky Moore, Brian Cook, Leo Chenal, 4 of those guys on the defensive side of the ball. There's a level of intensity and physicality to all of their games that maybe is a little bit more uncommon than maybe relative to their position or relative to their size. I think all of those guys play with a different kind of toughness and physicality that, maybe the Chiefs obviously think that they lack. Because there was a very real team that you could throw and go back to Darian Kennard and Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco, we got to interview him at the East-West Shrine Bowl. It's up on the KC Sports Network YouTube page. And, that dude is I'm thrilled that he's a Chief because there's just a lot of football character in this class. But they also, I think, they fit the age profile. They check so many boxes, which is, I think, so impressive from this draft class.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So tell me about Trent McDuffie because it's funny. We got past him really fast, at least just on this show and other stuff I've done. I think that there ended up being somehow more intrigue about almost the rest of the class, perhaps because we all just can look at Trent McDuffie and be like, well, he's going to probably be really good for a long time. And maybe it is really good and not obviously Jalen Ramsey. I don't know. I don't put words in your mouth. I don't know why we have sort of just checked off that box around here. But Brett Veach traded up for a corner and one from the northern side of the country, no less. This was shocking on a variety of levels that I don't know that at least on this show we've given enough time to yet.
Yeah, we knew he had to do more than he's ever done it. Corner. We knew it had to happen at some point, right? He had to address it sooner rather than later, and he finally did. But, Trent McDuffie, maybe a little bit is because we had George Karlaftis to deal with 9 picks later, and maybe there's a little bit of that. I don't know. But, McDuffie, look, he's an outstanding football player. He's really got a strong, athletic testing profile. He did really, really good in that regard, ran a 4.40. From a instinct perspective, from a willingness to tackle, from an ability to blitz, locating the football, being in good position, football IQ. There's so many boxes he checks. Really, the only box he doesn't check is arm length. He's got under 30-inch arms, and Craig, I think, did some studies on that. He might be the first cornerback tested in a long time with under 30-inch arms. Arm length kind of matters at cornerback a little bit. When we're doing some of our cornerback athletic testing, it's a factor when we're kind of looking and predicting who the cornerbacks that should be able to contribute based on their metrics. Arm length's one of those factors. Even outside of that, he's still a tier 2 cornerback tester, despite having historically short arms. He's outside of that, there's really not a ton to get picky about.
Were you surprised that take me back to the Chiefs are on the clock with number 21 overall. What were you expecting?
I was kind of expecting a trade up for Karlaftis maybe, or a trade up for a defensive end, and it kind of seemed like that was the direction that they were heading into the draft. And honestly, it doesn't seem like the Chiefs were necessarily planning on walking out of day one with Trent McDuffie either.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the board just fell to them. I wasn't thinking necessarily McDuffie. I was kind of really thinking more toward the edge, but also just more really scared because I was a little scared. I'll be honest. I'll admit it. There's always a little bit of anxiety, okay, who are they going to take?
Yeah.
Because it's been Breeze's Sneaks before, right?
Right. Right.
But I think Brett Veach went and grabbed one of his first round picks. I think that's one of his first round grades. I think that was one of those guys that it was very clear, this is the position in need. This is one of the highest grades on our board. There's 16 to 18 of these guys we have on our board. We're throwing him in. We're going to go move up for that guy. And so kudos to him for having the conviction to do it and navigating everything with perfection and precision afterwards.
What's a reasonable projection for McDuffie with all of the athleticism but shorter arms, all of that being said? What do you expect from him year 1? What do you expect from him year 4?
I think he's a guy that is going to be worthy of a second contract from the Chiefs So I think he's a guy that will earn another payday here in Kansas City. So, I think he's a guy who probably steps in as the best cornerback on this football team. It might take him a little bit of time to get kind of up to speed, but if you remember Byron Murphy from 2019, the cornerback, another cornerback out of Washington, energy, football character, instincts, all that kind of stuff, physicality. He's kind of like that, only he's a better athlete. And Byron Murphy's having himself a really solid NFL career. So I think the Chiefs got a very strong starter, a guy that's going to be a leader by the end of his rookie contract in the back end of that defense. I think they did the right thing moving up for him, and I think it's going to pay dividends really quickly.
It feels like most people around the Chiefs right now have kind of lined up to more or less see the vision, at least with Karlaftis. But I feel like there is a relatively large, array of opinions on what he is now or could be and everything that comes with that. I don't know where you stand other than having been excited at the time, but I don't know where you stand on what you think is a real limiter for him or what you think the actual ceiling might be, but help me cut through some of the good narratives and bad narratives about George Karlaftis.
Sure. Well, the good narrative, he's barely 21 years old. He's been productive as a pass rusher. He's been disruptive as a pass rusher, a linear, explosive athlete. Outstanding motor, great football character. Those are your positives. Some of your negatives. He's a great linear athlete. He can't really turn particularly well. He struggles to really turn the corner. Shorter arms, so the arm length does show up a little bit, especially locking up at the point of attack in the run game. There's some stiffness, like I kind of talked about. You would like to see him be a little bit stronger at the point of attack than he was, which is kind of surprising given some of the other interesting measurements about him. So those are kind of both sides of it, but I wound up, I've kind of shared the sentiments of both at different times, and I'm willing to acknowledge the negatives on him. I think we even talked about my emotional journey with George Karlaftis. He's been a name we talked about a few times, but I don't think you can find a guy that's going to come in and contribute and play immediately, give you outstanding effort, be able to play a ton of snaps, earn some effort sacks, have some quick wins with some of his explosion. I think there's too many positives to check off. If you get him at pick 30, you should be thrilled, and that's where they got him. And I think I don't think there's many better picks that they could have made at that spot.
You made the point that you really think that he's probably going to play a ton of snaps starting in week 1. And if you wanted to levy some criticism that the Chiefs are at a point where they might need someone to play snaps in their first game as an NFL player, I would understand that. But in the point that they're in right now, that's the thing for me. I've said on multiple occasions now, I would love to find a way that I could bet on how many, the over-under for where George Karlaftis snaps is going to be, or snaps among Chiefs defensive linemen or something like that to lead the D-line in total snaps taken, because it doesn't make sense for him to come off the field at any point, and they needed that. That is something this team had to have. I also do get worried whenever you talk about getting locked up and not having much bend there. So if you're playing both sides, what I don't want to have happen is for people to hear us talk about George Karlaftis' flexibility limitations and then assume that he's Breland Speaks. That is deeply unfair, because I feel like the argument on Breland Speaks was he's powerful and never on the ground.
Beat me to it.
Sorry, I saw as I was about to say, I saw you leading up to the microphone. I was like, Beards isn't here.
To say it.
I would have left if Beards was here. RIP. I would have left him in the space, but I wasn't sure if you fully inherited that bit or not. That's on me, Rudy. I'm sorry. I'm a bad teammate. But also, Karlaftis is
really
fast.
You're a terrible teammate.
I know.
Let the record show. You really are.
Look, I know. Listen, I'm all out of sorts. This show started later than usual. We don't have you for as long. We got other stuff to get to. We got a lot of draft coverage. This show hasn't been very funny today.
Josh is a 5th round talent, but with those red flags, he's undraftable.
Yeah, I'm undrafted. To be a 5th round talent, honestly, it feels kind of generous. Certainly some off the field concerns. Not very fast, not very flexible.
Do you love the game?
Diabetes.
That's a huge medical red flag.
Really is.
Huge medical red flag. I don't know. Rudy, Rudy, just by asking about Darian Kennard and Lonnie Johnson both at the same time. If you want, I don't care. I'm out. That's fine. I'm just gonna play Pokemon Go on my phone.
You kind of mentioned it earlier when you're talking about just obviously the trade back to Sky or trading back from 50 to 54 allows you to then, move back up to get Darian Kennard. I mentioned this to Josh, though, just like even kind of taking the players out of it. I just loved the process of the draft, which ultimately led to getting Darian Kennard in the 5th round. We finally got a Kentucky guy.
We finally got a Kentucky guy, and the fantastic process led to it. I mean, I'll even defend it straight up a little bit too. Like, I know, Josh, you're probably like, I don't want to trade up,
Not they had 4 7th-round picks. I'm fine with it. Not
That's
the popular
perfect
bubble.
time to use it, right?
They moved it. Yeah, it's fine.
I could see you being a little, you want 12 rookies, but
Brett Veach traded back. You think this is going to be the time that I get on Brett Veach's draft process? He moved up for a corner and then traded back and then used a 7th rounder to move up half a dozen picks or whatever to draft an offensive tackle. I'm good, man. I'm good with it. I hated he's got to get down to 6 picks. They don't have room for all of these guys. That sucked. This isn't that. That was fine.
Well, I mean, we'll see how many wind up actually making the roster too. But yeah, no, really.
But that's always true with undrafted guys and 7th round picks and everything. That's fine.
Well, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. 6 picks that actually matter, and then three 7s. What's the point? But no, I think the whole thing was great, and credit to Brett for how he navigated. Because I think his instincts were perfect. He always talks about pockets and understanding pockets of the draft and all that stuff, and I think he played the pockets perfectly because he felt like, hey, there's a round 1 corner that's kind of starting to fall to me. He moved up. Oh, by the way, shortly after the Bills moved up for a lesser cornerback to make sure that they secured him. And when I watched the video of Brandon Beane, he didn't look super excited about the fact that, that he was taking Kyrie Elam. He should be, but, he probably wanted McDuffie is my guess. Okay, so then he lets the board fall to him and still gets, the last kind of edge that I think can make a day 1 contribution in some capacity. Oh, he trades out of pick 50 to secure Sky Moore. Like, every single, his instincts were so good, and he trusted the board, and the board fell well to him, and he was able to make that trade up for Darian Kennard with the pick that he got for Sky Moore. And, Darian Kennard, I think, I'm just telling you, Rudy, you probably know, he can contribute. He has a chance to win that right tackle spot.
Yeah,
and, I'm not throwing the Trey Smith comp out, but, I think he's a guy that can play meaningful snaps out there.
There is, I think it's obviously to expect to fully hit on your right guard and right tackle 6th and 5th round back-to-back years, right? That's hard, but the style of play, and I think that's the thing that will be, especially if Darian Kennard wins this job, would be exciting is the way Trey Smith and Darian Kennard play football are similar. They want to there are going to be snaps this year where those two are just firing off the line on a running play, and there's going to be some poor defensive end just what do I do here? I like Lucas Niang. The funny part was I was mentioning this to Lebo because Lebo was asking me about him, and I essentially kind of I was kind of explaining. I was like, you remember the movie The Blind Side when it's the whole scene of hey, you protect your mom, right? You that quarterback is your mom. You protect him. You protect me. Darian Kennard's a protector. Then I watched the thing that he did with Jeff Schwartz, and he literally used that word for word where he was like, I'm a protector. And that's what he is. He is the guy who if somebody messes with Mahomes on the field, he gets in there and he throws that dude to the ground.
They should keep Andrew Wiley around for the long haul. Maybe Lucas Niang also, because he will get ejected 3 or 4 times. But as long as it's late in the game.
Let's not go that far.
Okay.
Because again, but also this is Darian Kennard. I'm stunned he lasted to the 5th round. He was the best right tackle in the SEC back-to-back years. I mean, he was the best right tackle in college football for back-to-back years. I was stunned.
We put a 3rd round grade on him.
Yeah, that's where I thought he might go.
That tells you how we feel about him.
I thought he might sneak into the end of the 2nd, right, if a team fell in love with him, but likely was going to be a 3rd. And to get a player like that who you think can start for you in the 5th round, I mean, he's a Kentucky guy. I mean.
Yeah, that never comes up on this show. But also, I know that a lot of people, I think you guys looked at him probably in multiple potential roles, but it seemed like a lot of teams were looking at him as a guard. I understand watching him play why you might go, I'm not sure if he can hang at the next level, but why do you think he can at tackle specifically?
Well, when we graded him as a guard, but I think he's got the he's got the measurables to do it, and I think that's the big question. he's got the size to be able to hang out there. He's got more than requisite length with his arms, and I think some of the conditioning and stuff was a little bit up and down for him at times. Like, he's got to manage his weight. He's a little bit better with his feet. I think those two things will help him go a long way. It's not always the prettiest process either, but I think that process, just it might carry regardless of where he plays, guard or tackle. So we kind of had back and forth about whether or not we were going to play or going to grade him as an interior or a tackle. We wound up going interior, but I genuinely think he can compete and get a shot out there as your right tackle.
The other thing that I find just like a little bit fascinating now is just kind of, I guess, the evolution just as this offensive line as a whole. Like, Dan Kennard's almost like the final piece of, you go from, and this is no Eric Fisher, Mitch Short slander, because those two were fantastic, but they were more your finesse tackles, right, technique. And now it's like the Chiefs just have they have 5 offensive linemen who just want to just throw people to the ground. It is amazing how much this offense, stylistically, the offensive line changed in 2 years.
Well, and I think the defense is here to pair it too. So you see some of the things that they've done on defense. They're building a more physical football team. I think both sides of the ball. Like, Leo Chenal is here to destroy humanity, and I mean, like, they've added Brian Cook. He's a missile from the second level. He runs the alley with conviction. Trent McDuffie wants to tackle. I mean, George Karlaftis, his motor will not quit. He refuses to quit. Like, you add those kind of guys to that group, you continue to add more physicality to your football team up front. Try to be tone setters. I mean, there's a lot of good vibes out there with that whole with that locker room, with that style. You can do a little bit more and can add a little bit more elements to this team, I think.
It's really interesting. There's just 1,000 different elements of it that I do think are worthwhile, but we have no more time to talk about them tonight. The good news is we'll have a long off season because it doesn't feel like the Royals are going to threaten for demanding much of our coverage for the next few weeks.
Always game.
Always game. Thank you, Kent.
Bye.
Terse. It's Kent Swanson of the KC Sports Network. Follow him on Twitter or don't at Kent_Swanson. Check out the Substack, kcsn.substack.com, kcsportsnetwork.com, the YouTube channel, the KC Laboratory podcast. The upsetting thing is the best way to lead you to all of Kent's work is to send you to his Twitter. But I don't want you to actually follow him there because we continue to have our beef. But right now he's ahead again, so it sounds like it's about time for me to fake another desperate medical emergency.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Icon is seeking healthy, non-smoking men and women ages 18 to 55 to participate in a clinical research study at our facility in Lenexa, Kansas. Women must be of non-childbearing potential. Volunteers must be available for one stay of 5 nights and one follow-up visit. Qualified participants may receive compensation up to $3,900 for study-related time and procedures. Call Icon today at 913-210-5900. That's 913-210-5900.
You found the one? Now find the ring. Come to Shane Company. Our team of jewelry consultants will do whatever it takes to help you find the perfect engagement ring. Not only are we knowledgeable about diamonds and sapphires, ring setting...
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Nothing really does anything for me, or neither does a lot for me.
Nothing in this world does anything for me anymore.
Yeah, I was never
Rudy
really
Salazar staring into the void.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We got to get to a story from Rudy. We got to get to some Brett Veach audio that we didn't get to yesterday, shockingly. We got you, Justin Ross. We got you talking about Justin Ross.
Heck yeah. Excited about Justin Ross.
We got a wide receiver to talk about, so of course we covered that ground. But I also want to follow up on something that Kent mentioned last hour, and that Rudy, you just had mentioned during the break. It's something
my best takes come during the break.
They really do. This is also something we had discussed a little bit over the week so far. It might have come up some on Saturday, I guess. But I'm choosing my words carefully because I think sometimes this trait is automatically seen as like a good thing that comes with no baggage if you don't frame it right. And I don't want to do that for the Chiefs. So give me a second to kind of unfold the layers of this. But they do feel like a more physical team today than they were this time a year ago, and a more physical team this time a year ago than they did this time 2 years ago. Now, again, physical doesn't just mean like handing the ball off and running a HB dive up the middle, right? Like that. That's not physical. I don't mean physical is keep your three linebackers on the field all the time and just let them thump dudes and everybody puts on a neck roll and you just try to make this game about my 3.1 yards per carry versus your 3.1 yards per carry, and we see if one of us can break out a 4-yard long at one point to get a first down.
But that's real football, Josh.
Yeah, I don't dislike that type of football if you're like Army or whatever.
3 feet of snow, uphill, both ways, all the time.
Bills Patriots in a snowstorm last year was a unique type of treat for football.
Treat's an interesting word.
I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it once. It's like, if Renee says, hey, do you want to go? There's a French restaurant I want to go to, and they serve great snails. Also, you know what? I'm a trier, not my effort. We told you this last night. Give up. That's the ideal. But if you're going to put, specifically with food, really, I'm not sure if I'm like this in other places in my life, but with food, I'll eat anything once, and maybe twice, and then we'll see. But like, if you're like, hey, this was something, and I don't just mean like, oh, go have some fried bull testicles. I'd rather not. But if Gordon Ramsay walked up with his little escargot of choice, yeah, I would eat them. I like to try things. I think I am generally like that with a lot of things. But with football, I'll try watching Bills Patriots in a snowstorm, and I'll enjoy it. But if I'm gonna eat something every day for a week, I'd rather it be some wonderful barbecue or some fried chicken. If it's going to be football I'm going to watch every week, I'd like to see the football thrown. But this isn't a stylistic change in terms of philosophy. It's just some differences in some of the types of players even. There's something philosophical in there, I'm sure. But I said this earlier, I think this was yesterday. But like, I do feel like you could make an argument that over the last couple of years, the Chiefs' defense, at some points it's been good, at some points it's been bad, at most times it's been kind of average, right? But, overall it's been It's been an defense.
Feels very right.
And like L'Jarius Sneed would hit, and Travarius Ward would tackle, and Rashad Fenton hits, and, Willie Gay and Nick Bolton hit. The guys previously, not so much. Look, I'm not trying to, Tyrann Mathieu in New Orleans, I'm not trying to start anything, but he and Dan Sorensen both last year were not, they were not necessarily laying lumber, and Sorensen wasn't getting to the place to put the lumber.
And Tyrann Mathieu admitted to it, so like, you know what I mean? Like he came out and said, hey, I was not my best last year, right? So
that's
like,
a great point.
It's fair for you to say it because Tyrann Mathieu said it.
Would have been cooler for him to cop to that a couple of months earlier instead of ruining my timeline for, I would say
I would argue he went about that the right way.
I'm sure you would argue that. Yeah, that makes sense. What a great friend. But like ultimately, if it's
I'm always here for Tyrann Mathieu. What can I say?
That's true. You and my little sister both took his side. I still bought her a birthday present.
Chief bracketologist, little sister.
That's a good point. Yeah, she gave us back. She gave good content at every turn. And what would make me more proud as a brother if not just some good content a few times a year?
Good content.
She makes good content. What are you going to do about it? But again, so like if it's age or style of play or whoever, the Chiefs' defensive line last year, look, man, Melvin Ingram made some thunderous hits in the backfield. It was hard for him to do it a ton of the time because he's 97 football years old, but he would make some hits. Mike Dana is a football player who will just be there when the ball gets there, but he's probably not the aggressor. Frank Clark, hard to be the aggressor when you're dealing with injuries and on and off the field. Again, I'll never make injury concerns, quote unquote, a character thing. I don't ever mean to infer that. And frankly, even finding out that Tyrann Mathieu had a broken thumb during part of that or whatever it was also plays into that factor. But the end result for the Chiefs these last couple of years has largely been not a soft defense, but a non-punishing defense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't feel like offenses left Kansas City feeling terribly punished on Sunday nights and Mondays most of the time. This defense feels like it has been retooled to make you hurt after you play the Chiefs, and that's kind of a fun little twist.
For sure. And I think the last little clarification is important too, of like, because I think this applies to the offense, especially the offensive line as well. Saying an offense or any area, any position wasn't necessarily physical is not the same as saying they weren't tough. If you play in the NFL, I generally believe if you play in the NFL, you're tough, right? Because
it's impossible not to be. NFL kickers are tougher than anyone you know. Anyone you've ever met in your entire life.
The stuff that they have put themselves through their entire life to get to this position, they are tough. There's a difference between tough and physical.
Yes.
But this offensive line, and even when the offensive line again was good, like Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz were great
incredible.
Tackles.
If Orlando Brown and whoever the right tackle is, and especially for the right tackle, if any right tackle on this team has 2/3 of Mitchell Schwartz's career, the Chiefs would be ecstatic.
Thrilled. But there's a difference in the style that this team plays.
Yes.
This offensive line is going to be more physical. This defense is going to hit a lot harder. And they are looking to hit, and that might be the most important thing, right? It's not just guys that are capable of hitting hard. It's guys that are looking to hit hard. Mm-hmm. It's guys that are looking to punish you. And I think you can even go to like even some of the skill players, right? Like Sky Moore's physical, right?
Yeah.
He battles with corners. Like I think this is a receiver group that is a bit more that is a bit more physical than what they've even had in the past. I mean the tight end group is essentially the same. I think Travis Kelce has throughout most of his career not been given the full respect in that regard.
100%.
Right? Like
100%.
George Kittle's the better tight end because he's a better run block. No,
Travis Kelce has been too smart to be perceived as being physical, which again is a little bit of a different thing. Like, I don't know Leo Chanel personally.
He's generally been more healthy.
Also, absolutely a part of it.
You know what I mean? It's
yes.
Like sometimes it's just smart to like not try to destroy your body.
I don't know Leo Chanel personally. I don't know very much about him outside of what I've learned about him as a football player. So please, if we find out that he actually like went to Wisconsin and to be a biologist or something, and everything, that may all be true. I do not mean to make any assumptions about this man's intelligence by any stretch of the imagination. You also have to be smart to be good at football at this level. But he seems like a person that would eat thumbtacks for breakfast without any milk. Just a bowl of thumbtacks. Like that just crunching glass for fun. He
enjoys hitting people, right?
Right.
And also, like, I think there's something to adding that to it. Again, we talk about a defense that teams might fear some, right? Not because they're one of the 3 best defenses in the NFL necessarily, but because when you go in, you're going to get hit. You're going to get hit hard. And I do think there's something to, like, especially if you start talking about your opposing receivers coming in, you're like, oh, there's this safety that's running around just trying to take our head off.
What do you make him think about on Tuesday?
In a way that doesn't incur penalties, obviously.
Take our head off because he hit us in the chest so hard,
Yeah. But like there is something to that I think it seems pretty clear that we saw that with the offensive line last year, and I think Darian Kinnard's just kind of the final piece. That's why and again, I really like Lucas Niang.
I don't think Niang could do some of that. Lucas Niang is a mountain of a man.
He is a big dude. He's athletic. I am just speaking. Maybe they even view it as a chance. Like, I think Lucas Niang, if healthy, is the front runner. Like, and part of that is he's been in the system. He knows the offense.
I think it might be Andrew Wiley.
Ooh, here's the thing. I don't hate the idea of it. If you told me right now, week one, who if I picked the starter, I think I'd pick Andrew Wiley because I was really impressed with Andrew Wiley last year.
This is by the way, this is the result of good competition, okay? And it's hard to do this at the NFL level sometimes, but the result of good competition at the NFL level is that I will not be able to tell you right now. I could not tell you. I do not know at the end of training camp who's going to be the Chiefs starting right tackle. I don't know. What I do know is it's going to be good. How do I know that? Because I think the odds of Andrew Wiley, Darian Kinnard, and Lucas Niang all being unable to play good football in week one is very low. Yeah. Like the odds of at least one of them are going to be good and healthy is pretty high.
And the value of having even just going out and draft, if you are somebody who is a big Lucas Niang guy and you're like, well, why would you draft Darian Kinnard? You have Lucas Niang. Well, here's the value. Lucas Niang wins the starting right tackle job. I mean, I'm thrilled for him. If Orlando Brown Jr. goes down, that's the only guy who has the ability to swing over. It's not Darian Kinnard. It's not Andrew Wiley. So, like, that could be where Darian Kinnard's role this year is, right? God forbid Orlando Brown Jr. gets hurt. Right. But Niang slides over to the left, and now Kinnard's starting on the right, right? Like that, and that's the value in Lucas Niang.
Or if either of the guards get hurt, all three of those guys have played guard on some level. I think Niang may have done it very briefly and was largely projected to be a guard. Kinnard touched guard in college, I think, at one point. Early on.
Yes, early on a little bit. But
everyone thinks all three of those guys can play. Wiley's played guard at the NFL level,
obviously. I'll be stunned if Kinnard is not getting reps at guard throughout.
In training camp.
Throughout training camp, mini camps, all that stuff. And he should be.
Yes,
like you want
all three
these
of them
guys,
should be.
You want these guys to have as much versatility as humanly possible.
What that does is it allows you to not. I don't know. Like Nick Allegretti, also I think is a fine football player who again is going to be really squeezed on this roster. I hope he finds a spot because I think he's earned that over the years. He also could theoretically give you a little bit of work at center. But Austin Ryder is back. I know that went under. I
always forget about that.
Yeah, understandably. But look, the Chiefs have never won a Super Bowl in the modern era without Austin Ryder.
It's true.
Just telling you.
I mean, it's true.
So. With all of that, like
they also don't win without Frank Clark. Obviously, we can all agree on that.
That's a great point. I'm going to start using Austin Ryder as my counter argument to the Frank Clark thing.
I like
that one. That one's pretty good. But yeah, like that, the benefit of having linemen that are that sort of positionally diverse, it means that you are almost always able to have your 5 or 6 best linemen on the field. So whatever position goes down, if it's Tooney or Trey Smith or Orlando Brown or whoever the starting right tackle is, you know that your 6th best offensive lineman can probably help you solve that problem no matter what. That's really valuable. I was trying to kind of figure out how, because we're thinking about this out loud on some level. I'm trying to figure out how I want to quantify the physicality and the toughness and everything. And what I think it has to be is where I'm going to keep using the word punishing, specifically for the defense and maybe for the offensive line also. You can have a really good defense that is not punishing.
For sure.
You can have a defense that is not elite fast. You can have a defense that is also good. You can have a good defense that's not elite fast. You can have a good defense that's not elite physical. You can have a defense that's not elite punishing. You can have a defense that has varying different forms of versatility, whatever it might be.
You can have a defense that is punishing because of the secondary, right? Like the Legion of Boom was this, which right, a lot of times when you think of a punishing defense, you think about pass rushers killing quarterbacks.
I think about
Seattle
linebackers.
Yes, like right. Seattle did it with corners and safeties. Seattle was just like, hey, we're just going to kill you with our corners and safeties. Like to your point, there's a ton of different ways you can go about this.
And also, there are ways you can have a defense that is fast and isn't good, or is punishing and isn't good, or whatever. So where I'm kind of working in the quote-unquote physicality of what's been invested here is that it is one element of what a defense can have, might need to have, whatever. It doesn't mean there's a guarantee. Again, Leo Chenal's not going to be on the field the majority of the snaps this year, barring an injury to Willie Gay or Nick Bolton. Or at the very least, I can tell you one of those 3 guys is not going to be on the field for the majority of the snaps this year. I do think, and maybe we can unpack this more again in a little while. I've kind of teased a half take here multiple times. I think there's a decent chance that at pick 62 and 103, the Chiefs took Brian Cook and Leo Chenal, who might not share the field with each other very often at all this year, because when Chenal comes off the field in sub packages, Cook goes on. That could end up being that maybe that applies to Juan Thornhill, or maybe that applies to Nick Bolton or Willie Gay. But typically when you're going from base to sub packages, linebackers coming off and DBs going on.
And especially in the Chiefs defense, it's largely been a third safety, right? Like
yes,
that is usually what we've
good
seen
point.
under Spags.
And again, positional versatility helps you in all of those ways. I think Willie Gay's the one that can't come off the field in passing downs.
And Cook has shown the ability, again, this may sound like an insult to him in a way, right? He's shown, I think he can do it at a much higher level and also much cheaper.
Yes.
The things that Daniel Sorensen, that they wanted Daniel Sorensen
box
to
safety
do. The
stuff.
box safety, come up and hits.
Sorensen told me that I had never heard him or anyone on the Chiefs, from the Chiefs. We did the interviews that we did out of that ADA signing a little more than a year ago now, I guess. And Dan Sorensen, to me, used the phrase, I can't remember, I couldn't quote you verbatim, but he said something about being able to play safety, and then he said the phrase weak side linebacker. I wasn't even calling him a weak side linebacker because I don't know that that's even fair to put a safety's body and a linebacker label there. But Cook can do some of that, again, which is why I was surprised when they drafted Chanel. And then you realize that, again, he's got the athletic testing of someone from a different planet. And he goes, all right, it comes together.
We'll take a flyer on this and see what we can do with it.
Yeah. So because
sometimes football can come down to as simple as give me athletes and I'll try to work with them.
Yeah, who also have produced, right?
Not
elite
just,
athletes who produced at a school that has turned out a couple of thumpers defensively. I'm good with that. I'm not losing any sleep about the Chanel pick. It was just the one that gave me the most pause. And then now, again, there's a difference between making that pick at 103 and making that pick at 50-something or 60-something. Those are different animals.
When it's your first pick versus when it's your fifth pick, right?
Yes.
It's just very different.
If the Chiefs had not drafted a corner, edge, and a wide receiver, and maybe a corner, edge, wide receiver, and safety, I would have said, are you sure there wasn't someone at a more valuable position to your roster that you could have taken there? But in reality, I would still ask that question in the war room, right? If I all of a sudden, if we were going around the room and then Brett Veach said, Josh, what do you think? I'd say, well, is there a player at a more valuable position to our roster here that we could select? And they would all go, not really. He's our best player available, and the other guys that we like are also guys we already have. But cool. Maybe
it's a big reach, right? There's a defensive end they like, but they're like, we wouldn't draft him in the third round.
Then don't.
Don't reach.
Don't. Yeah, I would generally, I think, rather see you take the freak athlete at a position that you don't necessarily need rather than reach for the guy you desperately do. Again, desperation in the draft is usually an indicator of something going wrong to get to that point. But the Chiefs, I think, overall were able to address some of that without ever having to pay the tax for reaching. That's why this draft class comes together so beautifully.
Again, I feel like I've said this a million times, but I mean, it's something we talked about on the show frequently on how just results are obviously important, but like so is the process, right? Because the process, if you repeat a process that is successful, generally you will continue to have success. Sometimes, of course, you're going to fail. It is possible this draft largely sucks. I don't think that's going to be the case, but it's possible. But the process, I think, is good.
Yes.
And I think if Brett Veach and the Chiefs follow this process, more times than not, their drafts are going to be really good. Now, you're not always going to have a Tyreek Hill to trade away, right, to really add up picks.
True.
I mean, I hope they do, right? That means because that means they're drafting pretty dang well. But generally, you're not going to have that. But if you follow this sort of process of, hey, we will trade up for difference makers, but there is that ceiling where where we're not willing to go, right? And maybe that's whether it depends on where you're initially at, right? But in this, it's moving up to 21, but it's only for select players, and then from there, we're not looking to reach, right? Like we are going to trade back. We're going to just kind of let the board fall to us, take best players available. Like I think the process for this draft, I think it was by far the best process of the draft, right? We'll ultimately see what the results are because anything can happen, right? But like the process, I think, was the best.
And all right now we can judge really is the process. We spent quite a bit of time talking about Darian Kennard here today. We'll go back to yesterday when Brett Veach spoke to me. That was yesterday, right? There's no way it was 2 days ago. No, because we had.
Here's the thing, man.
We got one piece of audio yesterday.
I've been through some stuff.
We got to get to Rudy's story later. Also, no, this was yesterday, early-ish yesterday.
Yes, it was yesterday because he was supposed to speak on Monday, but it got pushed back to Tuesday.
That's right.
Today is Wednesday. Got there.
Today felt like a Friday for a moment today. It's been a weird week. We got Suns-Mavs Game 2 coming up in 30 minutes here on 810.
Wallaby says, has the show ever talked about hockey? Just wait, baby, because the Avalanche are about to be in the Stanley Cup this year.
I wore a hockey jersey last night. Last night, I rolled up here in my then Phoenix, now Arizona Coyotes sweater. Yeah, that's right. I know it's called a sweater. I said jersey the first time, but I said sweater whenever it was directly about the hockey team. I get it. Maybe we can get Rudy a Darian Kennard sweater. Probably not.
That'd be kind of cool.
I think hockey aesthetics and baseball aesthetics are clearly the best two in terms of jerseys you wear throughout the rest of your life.
You can't get Kentucky because Kentucky has a club hockey team, so you can't get Kentucky hockey sweaters. They're sweet.
I feel like
I really want one.
I feel like you should absolutely have a Kentucky hockey sweater.
Yeah,
that feels like you could pull that off.
That is, I've never owned the hockey sweater, but it is the one that I look at from afar. I'm just like, because I'm generally not a wear jerseys guy.
Yeah.
But I think the hockey sweater is like the one that it's generally okay, I think, for anybody to wear at almost any time. Unless it's obviously like, don't show up to your wedding in it, obviously. I mean,
why not?
Unless that's your thing, right? Unless that's
why
your
not?
theme. But point being, like, I think the hockey sweater is like the one uniform that just works like all the time.
Also, by default, it's like oversized and baggy in a way that it can be flattering to any body type.
Yep.
You're a little skinny person, that's all right, put on a big hockey sweater. You're a big person, cool, put on a big hockey sweater. Either way, you're going to look like you're swimming in it. It's kind of the point.
It's a good look for I'm a big hockey sweater guy.
I do think baseball jerseys have to be second.
For sure. Absolutely.
You can open them up, you can button them up, whatever.
It's the buttons, right? The buttons make it because it makes it like a button-up shirt, right?
Yeah.
Like almost like you're fancy, right?
Yeah. Not as easy to maybe if you're, I don't know, just to pick a random person, like looking at Jay Crowder, the Valley jerseys on the Suns website and thinking, man, I really do think this would be a hilarious aesthetic for me to adopt. But I definitely can't go to work with my armpits out,
Here's the thing with the basketball jersey where I think it works. And I think this might be reserved to white people only.
Okay.
I think where this is the way white people that can wear a basketball
this
jersey.
is exclusive to white people.
I mean, not exclusive to white. Like, anybody can do whatever they want. But
Sure.
I think this is how white people are able to wear a basketball jersey and it look all right.
Got it.
Basketball jersey over the hoodie, low-key kind of works. You see it every now and then at a basketball game, like somebody wearing just like a gray hoodie with the basketball jersey over. And again, you can't rock that like every week, right?
Or in July.
Well, depending on where you live, I guess.
I don't think we could probably.
Here, no, but Minnesota maybe, right? If you're a Timberwolves fan.
I think
point being, like it kind of works, but otherwise, you're generally right. Like it is very hard to wear a basketball jersey and it work. Especially once you get over the age of like 20.
Also, Ice Pyro says, I have a Pikachu baseball jersey.
I saw that, and I need...
so maybe we're going to get Rudy's aesthetic updated a little bit.
Might need a picture of this.
Can we drop a link in the chat?
If you got any links.
Ice Pyro. We can just Google Pokemon baseball jerseys. I feel like... I don't
Pokemon
think I would go Pikachu,
sweater.
but oh man. I mean, what else could you possibly ask for?
Oh boy.
I think also with a black NBA jersey, black undershirt, kind of gets you to that short sleeve place pretty easily. That's what's really kept me on the edge of thinking maybe this is going to be for me. It's a tough one though. Hockey jerseys, elite. It made a lot of sense like 7 minutes ago when I told Rudy, hey, let's pull up that Darian Kennard, Brett Veach audio because we were talking about Darian Kennard in the right tackle position. But now we're here. But we've only played one Brett Veach audio clip in 2 days. So
who's tough and physical? Hockey players. You know who else is tough and physical? Darian Kennard.
Here's Brett Veach and how the Chiefs view Darian Kennard.
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, and that's our plan when we drafted him. There's been a lot of talk as, is he a tackle? Is he a guard? And, I think we feel confident they can play guard. But I mean, you're talking about a guy that has logged a ton of starts at right tackle. There's some cleanup work that he needs to do. We have a great coaching staff. We have a great group of guys in that room that are really experienced. And but I think, anytime you can go and play right tackle successfully at an SEC level, more often than not, that'll translate to the pro level. Now it'll be a jump just like all these colleges are when you're moving from, moving up to the NFL. So it's not like it's going to be easier, but I think if there's one conference that gives you a sense of hope and, sense of encouragement is, if you can line it up at right tackle and I think we all saw that Georgia defensive line last year. If you can line up and play against defensive fronts of that caliber, I mean, you're certainly going to have a shot. Again, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and it might be rough at the beginning, but I certainly think he's athletic enough. He's certainly long enough. We love his length. And, Orlando Brown, people thought he wasn't athletic to play tackle, but I think when you have size, length, and you're wired the right way, you put those guys around the right coaching, I think they can become very successful. And I think that's kind of where we're going with Darren.
No questions about his length.
Love Brett Veach when he loves a man's length.
No questions about where he played.
It just means more.
I should clarify the very first question. The response there was, do you see him as a tackle? Which is where Veach said, yeah, we do. And that, I think, is logical. I think he needs to largely stay at tackle to sort of, pay off on the pick. For this to be a steal, he's a tackle. For it to be a good pick, he could be a guard from that spot. I don't mean to say that he couldn't just be or a swing tackle even. But
if he's Trey Smith's backup, I mean, just even the right side backup, that it can still be a good pick if he does well filling in
on a rookie contract for 3 or 4 years. Sure,
but steals are starters generally, right?
Yeah.
Or the undrafted guy who does. I mean, bringing him up again. Daniel Sorensen was a steal as an undrafted free agent, right? Like, you don't expect undrafted free agent guys to contribute. Yeah, if Darren Kennard is not starting in the NFL, he's not a steal, but a good pick, a value pick.
This also goes back to some stuff the area scout said about him at the time, like, hey, we're going to turn him over to Andy Heck and see what he can do. There is some technique stuff that he does need to improve on, but I don't know, man. I mean, it feels like a pretty good, if it's going to be a gamble, that feels like a pretty good gamble to take on your best chance of getting a starting tackle that late in the draft for a player who, again, like, did it at a high,
did it at a big time football
Shut up,
school.
Brady. Shut up and take off your headphones. I don't want you to hear this. I kind of think that if Darren Kennard had the exact same career, but he was at Alabama, he probably goes like 2 full rounds higher. Maybe 3.
Did I hear my name, Josh?
Yeah, you're good. Yep. You can go ahead and put him. Yeah, you can put him back on. Yep, you're
Gotcha.
good. Yep. I just said that Kentucky's a football school and everyone respects that.
Yeah. Potential number 1 overall pick next year. Will Levis, baby.
We didn't even ask Ken about Lonnie Johnson. Could have really gotten him to continue that Kentucky hype train. It's a fun pick. It's a fun role to see where he ends up. I do think it's really informative that the Chiefs see him as a tackle. Again, we heard that from the scout. We now have heard that from Veach, and ultimately, it's trying to make that offensive line a little nastier, and that really has been an evolution. Again, not that you couldn't win a Super Bowl with Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, because let me check my notes. Let me check my notes. You can. They did, actually. They did. I just double-checked that. They did, in fact, win that Super Bowl.
With Austin Ryder as your center?
Yeah, apparently so. That is what happened. Who are the starting guards on that team? Go ahead, you coward.
I was about to make the joke about how I don't remember the 2 guards on that team.
By the end, it might have been Wiley and Allegretti. That was the one, because it was Kelechi Osemele at the beginning of that season, right?
Kelechi. Because Laurent... No. Laurent started. That was the next year.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
LDT was there.
LDT was the right guard. And the left guard
It was still LDT. It might have been Gretty, man.
I don't know if Gretty was playing yet. Like, really playing. There's a name that we're forgetting.
Oh, this is the 2020.
Was it Andrew Wiley on the left side?
I thought it might have been Gretty and Wiley. It might have been Wiley and LDT. We got to get to 54 though. Yeah, I don't know. Why don't we take a break instead of Googling all this now? Whenever we come back, we'll leave you on the edge of our seats. Here's an old school radio tease. Whenever we come back, we'll try to remember who the starting guards were on that Super Bowl team. Plus, more audio, Rudy's very, 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 very long day at work, and a whole lot more.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app and 810WHB.com.
You know, I love to tell you about Ruback Fine Jewelry. It's because they did me a great service whenever I went to them in the engagement ring process. I did a little bit of Googling for the couple of weeks leading up to realizing I got to start working on this here. I'm trying to lock this down, trying to get this lifetime contract signed up here pretty soon. I would like to get a little bit of jewelry on then-girlfriend Renee's ring finger. But we Googled some things. We looked at some stuff. Like, oh, these are some neat things. How is that going to work if we just do something online. Is that a good idea? No, the answer is no. Hey, hi, I'm Joshua Briscoe from Almost Entirely Sports, here to tell you, be smarter than me, cut out all of the time you're going to waste at the beginning, and go straight to Ruback, because the only actual stop I ever made in this process was at Ruback. Go to Ruback. It's by appointment only. You can get their information at ruback.co. That's ruback.co. They've been serving this area for more than 100 years. If you go to Ruback and you talk to Hal, he will guide you along this process. He will listen to what you like. He will listen, if you want them to be involved, to what your significant other likes. And you guys can figure out all together, here's our goal, here's our process. What do you think? What should I be asking for here? And for me, again, I went through that process. I went into that process with very, very, very little information in terms of what Renee wanted, in terms of what I even could afford. That's a whole question. Hey, don't Google how much diamond can I buy. That's not the way to do it. But ultimately, when I ended up getting to Hal, we went through that process. We figured out, hey, not only can I end up with a big shiny diamond up in here, a couple little ones around it also. It's fun. I like this ring a lot. But also, here's how we can make this something beautiful and custom and long-lasting, classic, and something that will look incredible years to come. I could not be happier with that process. And also, you might go, but Josh, a custom ring, that does sound expensive. You're on those big fancy sports talk radio paychecks. I mean, you probably could have bought the moon, just pulled it right out of the sky, right? Listen here. A custom ring means a custom budget for you. Again, I went in with a couple of things, like some starting points. Eventually, Hal helped me kind of mold what I wanted with what I could do, and I just could not. There's not a single thing that I would change about that process or the result of the ring that now Renee wears. So I would really encourage you, if you're in that timeline right now looking at an engagement ring, no better place to do it than at Ruback Fine Jewelry right here in Kansas City. You can make your appointment with them. Ruback Fine Jewelry right now online. Visit them at ruback.co. That's ruback.co. And maybe you're trying to get that last-minute Mother's Day gift. Maybe you're trying to add a little jewelry somewhere else in your life. They've got pieces ready for you there as well. So go check them out in person and go online at ruback.co.
Over 35 years ago, Wholesale Batteries opened their doors and sold their first battery. Times have changed, but their commitment to customer service is the same. The commitment they made back in 1977 stays true today. Wholesale Battery is one of the largest distributors of motorcycle batteries in the country. Stop in for anything you need for your motorcycle. They also have you taken care of for all your lawnmower needs, laptops, ATVs, power sports, computer backups, cell phones, portable electronics. When it comes to batteries, these guys have it all. Call 913-342-0113 or at wholesalebatteries.net. The right battery the first time.
Customer satisfaction. It seems like many businesses have forgot about that lately. Not A1 Mortgage. We're so confident in our team, we have a closing date guarantee. If we miss your contract closing date, you get $5,000. When you want to purchase a home, call the professionals at A1 Mortgage. Our team will get you pre-approved before you fall in love with your next home. VA, FHA, USDA, and conventional loans. We will customize the perfect loan for you, start to finish. Call A1 Mortgage at 816-822-8888. That's 822-8888. We can close your loan in as little as 10 days, and our $5,000 closing date guarantee will give you peace of mind. Call A1 Mortgage 816-822-8888. That's 822-8888. Or apply online at a1mortgage.com.
A1 Mortgage, making your dreams a reality is what we do.
A1 Mortgage Group, LLC, a Kansas and Missouri licensed mortgage company, NMLS 268370. Terms and conditions apply. Subject to change without notice.
Introducing Zarda Barbecue's new Texas-style brisket. Cut thick and so tender, you can carve it with a butter knife. Zarda's Texas-style brisket is only available for dinner Fridays and Saturdays from 4 p.m. until we run out. Peel back that brown butcher paper and savor the smoky, tender goodness of Zarda's new Texas-style brisket. Add some of our world-famous Zarda beans, crispy golden fries, an ice-cold drink, and toast to the weekend with Zarda's new Texas-style brisket. Come get some.
Ready for summer? We are too! So grab your friends and head to Hy-Vee for the Seltzer Summer Kickoff this Thursday through Saturday. Enjoy samples of your favorite hard seltzers, a Boulevard Tap Takeover, and summertime bites. Receive a free Cork Seltzer koozie while supplies last. Plus, stock up on your favorite wine and save 15% when you mix and match 6 or more bottles. Don't miss the Hy-Vee Seltzer Summer Kickoff this Thursday through Saturday at your Kansas City area Hy-Vee. Event times vary. Product or promotion may differ by location and state. Valid where legal, available, and while supplies last. See store for details. details.
Hey, Kansas City, this is SSJ, and if you're like me, you know that the mom in your life deserves to be honored on Mother's Day. And everything you need to treat your mama right is available at Hy-Vee. You can start her day off right with breakfast in bed, then pamper the mom in your life with a gorgeous floral arrangement, fresh chocolate-covered strawberries, a variety of spa and beauty products, or a gift basket made especially for her. Just one stop for endless ideas to make this Mother's Day the most memorable ever, only at Hy-Vee. In these trying times, Kansas City Credit Union knows how important cash flow is in your household. With rates near all-time lows, now's the time to take action. Free up some cash by lowering your monthly car loan payment when you refinance your auto loan with Kansas City Credit Union. And as a bonus, Kansas City Credit Union will delay your payments for 90 days. Visit kansascitycreditunion.com/810sports for more information. Kansas City Credit Union, your path to financial freedom.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I did not have in the show notes talk about how clean Rudy's butt was all pandemic, but here we are.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Rudy found the answer. The Chiefs starting guards in the Super Bowl were Laurent Duvernay-Tardif and Stefan Wisniewski.
Forgot about Wisniewski.
You made this point during the break, Rudy, but like looking at this roster here right now, the amount of positional changes. It does not feel like the Chiefs won the Super Bowl that long ago. I remember a lot of that with more clarity than I remember what I had for lunch yesterday, which makes sense. It was slightly more important to my life, I guess, than what I had for lunch yesterday, but you get the point. But also, looking at the offense, Patrick Mahomes, Damian Williams, Anthony Sherman, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, Eric Fisher, Stefan Wisniewski, Austin Ryder, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, and Mitchell Schwartz. Of those starters, 3 of them are currently on this roster. One of them is Austin Ryder. And then you also have down the depth chart, McCole Hardman still here. But then it's LaShawn McCoy, DeMarcus Robinson, Cam Irving. Emmanuel Ogbah had a career resurgence and 2 contracts now after leaving this team. Terrell Suggs was on this team.
God, I forgot about Terrell Suggs.
Tano Passanio, Chris Jones, Derek Nottie, Frank Clark, Anthony Hitchens, Damian Wilson, Travarius Ward, Bashad Breeland, Kendall Fuller, Dan Sorensen, Tyrann Mathieu. That list has 3 guys who are still here. Chris Jones, Derek Nottie, Frank Clark. Everybody else is gone.
The defensive line is pretty intact, at least from the starting, right? Like the guys behind them have changed drastically, but 3 or 4 starters just there.
Mo Claiborne was on that team?
God, we've had some.
Is that right? Hold on, CBSSports.com. This is the first one I just straight up don't believe. Because I thought, did he not get cut? Did he play a snap in the Super Bowl? I don't know. I'm going to try to get to the bottom of how long Morris Claiborne was a member of the Chiefs. I remember being there at training camp. Or no, it was in season maybe. I don't know. Whatever day it was that he was there, I remember being there for it. I think it was at training camp. But there's your trip down memory lane. The experience of watching the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl and the parade and everything do not feel that long ago. I see pictures every once in a while, and I'm just from the Super Bowl parade and everything.
He was inactive, but he was on the roster.
So he did not take a snap in the Super Bowl, but he got a ring.
He was inactive for the entirety of the playoff run.
Okay, that makes sense. He played in 8 games in 2019. But you know what his Pro Football Reference page also says?
Super Bowl champ.
1-time Super Bowl champ.
Go Mo. LSU.
So, Rudy, give me and the audience, because I only know, the crazy thing here is I only know chunks of this story, but I do know the end result. You tell this story.
Yeah.
This is the Rudy segment. There's not
I don't know if there's much more to like what you know.
Well, you got to explain it to the whole audience right now.
For sure.
And I'll just jut in whenever I think there's something noteworthy.
Because like it is a story that is both like not that crazy in terms of I don't know if there's a lot, but what there is just kind of like really.
Just take it linearly.
So we obviously last night we do the show, we do AES. 10 o'clock comes, show's over with, packing up, getting my stuff ready.
I'm gone. I have left a Josh-shaped hole in the wall at this point.
I get into my car. I'm the only one at the building. I'm driving home, right? And my commute right now. I moved out this previous weekend. My commute right now is a little bit longer because I'm just I've moved to a slightly farther place than where I used to live, and it requires me to get on the highway for a bit. So I hop on. I'm just driving. Hop on the highway. Highway 69. Very nice.
Nice.
Heading towards, I'm about Stillwell, and I notice my car just kind of does a little beep, and I look at it, and it says engine overheating, at which point I look up, and I see smoke coming off my engine. I'm like, huh. It's like 10:30 right now. I've never had, I understand, like, what's happening, right? Like, my engine's overheating, right? My car told me that. Never actually had this problem, though, before in my life. I have a rough idea of what you do, but it's just like, again, when you've never dealt with something your first time, you're just kind of like, you're just a little caught off back, right? Because it's not often you just see your engine smoking.
And you'd love for it to happen when the light is out if you had your choice.
Yeah, not 10:30, p.m. on a highway near Stillwell, Kansas. Which, again, not far from here.
I'm checking the receipts just because this is going to come up for somebody at some point.
Yeah.
The first time that I got word of this was at 11:20 p.m. when you messaged me and Beards about it, presumably after you had solved some things. Because if I was listening to the story right now, it's like, okay, so why didn't you just call Josh and have him come in? I did not find out about this until 11:20, at which point I was asleep on the couch in the basement, which is why you got a response from me at 2 a.m. because that is the time. Anytime you get a message from me or see a tweet or something at 2 a.m., assume that I fell asleep on a couch at 11 p.m. and that's me waking up from the couch to go to bed.
Yeah. And so, anyways.
Total exoneration for me as a bad friend. Okay,
and to be fair, I did not call, as I'll explain when I get there, I didn't really call anybody in part because of just the time and stuff. But anyways, so what I essentially pull off the highway, right? I'm just, all right, pull off to the side of the highway. It's just, okay, I need a gas station. That's my first thought. Let's find a gas station. There's one not too far. And so I'm driving slow. And as long as I'm driving slow, my car is not overheating too much. I left out one little detail. I started to notice something might be up in my car because it was like a little chilly and I was trying to have the defrosters on and there was no heat coming out of my, ventilation. So I was like, there might be something seems to be wrong. I didn't think it is a common thing of when your engine, of overheating, right? What ultimately happened, not having heat in out of your ventilation's normal.
It's just funny because at that moment you're thinking, oh, my car's not getting hot enough.
Yeah, because which
is the opposite of the problem.
And at a time, I've had my AC not work, so I'm just thinking the same thing, right? This is just a separate thing. I just need to take it in, but I'm not worried about it because it's summertime, right? Or we're approaching summer. Anyways, get off, go to a gas station, closed. Okay, there's another gas station a little bit down the road. It's also closed. I'm like, huh? Because again, my engine is overheating, so I'm in my mind, I know water's not the fix, but it can be a temporary.
A lot of gas stations would have coolant,
That too, right?
Sure.
But just at the very least, if I can get a jug of water just to get me to where I need to be.
Does that work? I've seen that in commercials.
It is not a solution, right? It does not work in the fact that it fixes it. It can just, if you
cool you down for a second,
get you to a mechanic.
Okay.
You do not want to drive around in this for long term at all. Just get to a mechanic. Anyways, so I'm just I'm going 30 miles per hour, and at this point my engine has cooled down, right? There's no signs, it's not smoking, nothing. Because I just need to get somewhere where I can get coolant. So I realize I am now right near Metcalf, and so I just make the decision, okay, I'm 10 minutes from the station. I'm just going to drive down Metcalf, about 30 miles per hour. It's about 10:30, 11 at night. Obviously, it takes a while to get back. As I'm going, there's a quick trip at 151st Street. Pull over, get 50/50 coolant, get that, which is what you use for your radiator to keep it cool. Anyways, get back to the station, park, come inside, because I need to let my car cool down, right? I can't go touch that engine.
And now it's probably
11:30-ish. Yeah, it's 11:30-ish at this point. And so I'm just I'm killing time. I know what's wrong, or at least I assume I know what's wrong, right? It's clearly something with the radiator, something like my car's overheating. So I'm just waiting, kind of just figuring out what's my game plan long term as I'm waiting for my car to cool down. I think car cools down, walk out to it, open up the the little overfill cap, and I can see there's essentially no coolant in it. It's just like,
and you just put some in it.
Clearly, this
at the
is
quick
the
trip,
issue.
right?
No, I hadn't put any. I was like, my thing was like, because I was close enough to the state.
Let's
station.
get back. Let it
I
cool.
was like, let's just get back there
Sure.
so I can like go inside and like I have just more space. And I didn't really want some random person walking up to me. Oh, what you got going on?
What can I do for you? Yeah,
blah, 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 blah.
yeah. Some horrible, well-meaning individual.
Yeah, I hate those people. So anyway, as I get back here, like I open up, see that there's nothing in there. I'm like, okay.
Ice Pyro says water's perfectly fine as long as it doesn't freeze. It's not a long-term solution because it doesn't have lubricant in it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ice Pyro.
Yes.
I learned something.
And so anyways, Wallaby says distilled water. I did see that mentioned multiple times about distilled water. I don't think you need it with 50/50 or anything because the 50/50 is just
has
the
water
coolant.
for sure.
Yeah, but start pouring it in because I'm like, okay, hopefully this is just the fix, right? I pour it in. I've got coolant. We're fine. Literally the second I start pouring it in, I hear dripping noises.
Oh.
And this leak is not just a slow leak. It is leaking faster than I can fill the thing.
Good.
Like it
is.
It's just immediately there is no coolant in it, right? Like what I poured in is just gone. So I know me, like, okay, I clearly have a leak, right?
Yeah.
It's 11:30, midnight, right around there. No place is open. So I'm like, okay, well, like I cannot get to the places that I need to, where I would ideally like to get to are just too far to drive.
Yeah.
With my car.
Places where you had like a bed / shower.
Yeah.
You know.
It's too far, right? Like I'm not, like the station was kind of at my limit of this is how far I'll drive right now.
Yeah.
And especially with a leak, right? Like it's just not happening. So I make the decision. I called my old man, kind of just let him know. I was like, hey, this is what's happened. I actually called him when it first happened just because it was just like instinct. He doesn't answer or anything because he's sleeping, of course.
Right.
But eventually he actually then like sees my, I just shoot him a text like, hey, because like you're going to see missed calls from me at night. Don't worry. I'm fine.
I'm not dead.
Car just is leaking, coolant, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, to speed this up, because I realize we're running out of time.
Yeah.
I tell him, I basically just make the decision, you know what? I can't go anywhere. It's late. I don't want to call anybody, wake anybody up. I don't want people to come get me. I'm going to sleep at the station.
Everyone should know this about Rudy. Rudy's biggest fear in life is inconveniencing other people.
It's kind of true, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not joking.
It's top 3, yeah. I do not
high
like
on the
to
list.
inconvenience other people. Again, part of that is because I hate it when people do it to me, but so I don't want to be the hypocrite and do it to other people.
Yeah, but also sometimes you could just call someone and let them pick you up so you don't have to sleep in the big lazy boy in the chair, lazy boy chair downstairs.
But that's what I did. So I slept in the recliners downstairs about 2 or 3 a.m. I got a little chilly, so I came upstairs, grabbed a table skirt, and that was my pillow, or not, that was my blanket. And about 7 o'clock, I did not sleep well. I was kind of up and awake and asleep throughout the night, and eventually by about 7 o'clock, I took my car over to the good people at the Goodyear at 119th, and I forget the brother's name, Osman Brothers. They run the Goodyear over 119th Metcalf. They get me all fixed up. It's the water case. Water jug?
I have no idea, dude. I have no idea.
I'm not forgetting. The water tank. Water tank had a leak in it. That's what was causing everything, just obviously.
Didn't know cars had water tanks.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that like connects the coolant goes into it, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, right, like it's just leaking. It's going everywhere.
Follow-up question from S. Wallaby. Are there not Ubers or Lyfts in Kansas City? Great question, S. Wallaby.
There are, because also the thought process was, right, I could go to a hotel. Ubers to get to where I needed to go would have cost a lot of money.
Fair
I
enough.
ain't spending that money, and I didn't want to spend money on a hotel on something for 6 hours, right?
Also
I was
fair.
just like, you know what? I don't want to spend, anywhere from $60 to $100 for 6 hours. Like, you know what? I'll just toughen this up. And that's what I did. And so I've been here since like 1 p.m. yesterday.
I can't think of a better way to put a bow on this show than to try to get one step closer to letting Rudy drive his now functioning car back home.
I hope.
Because you're gonna. Well, yeah, I guess true. But you got good service. You feel good about all that being.
When I got in, the first thing I checked was, I feel heat coming through my ventilations. You know,
the little lever doesn't go straight to H anymore.
A lot of this was a lot of this decision. I mean, this was all my decision, right? You know, I could have chose differently. It largely came down to money and just being like, you know what, I can suck it up for like 6 hours because I've slept in worse spots, like much, much worse. I was inside a building that I was familiar with and had a chair to sleep on. Oh, funny part is the first time I went out to my car, I opened the door to go out to my car. And as I take a footstep, one step out, I realize I don't have my keys. And I didn't come that close, right? Like the door is not about to close or anything. Yes. My whole body's in the way.
We've got a key. You got to scan a key fob to get into the building after hours.
I am leaving my key. And my key is not leaving my pocket the rest of this night.
Because at that
point, now we're in trouble.
Because you couldn't get into your car without your car key. You couldn't get into the building without the building key. Now all of a sudden, you are laying in front of the door waiting for Marco to come step over you to start the border patrol in the morning.
I think I might have had a way in, maybe, an old way I used to get in. But that was like 5 years ago, and I don't know if that way still exists.
Rudy, you cannot climb this tree.
I'm telling you, man, if I can just get up that tree, I can make it from the tree to the balcony.
Wow. On that note,
it was so I've been here for like 32 hours, 36 hours, something like that.
It's got to be approaching a record. I'm sure people have spent the night here before. I've almost spent the night here before.
If you're watching on Twitch and you're like, really looks like he's wearing the same things, because I am. None of my clothes are near me.
Do you think people on the video feeds notice if our clothes are the same as the day before? Because I've definitely.
That's why I've had the jacket on the whole time to hide it. You know.
Wow, that's next level. This show gets neurotic at times.
Not the most exciting story, but
it's good.
I slept
you
here.
Spent the night at the radio station. You've been here for 30 plus hours.
I checked it off the bucket list because I came close multiple times to doing this.
Right.
And now I've actually done it.
We've been close before. There have been late nights into early mornings and stuff here, but that one is a new one. We're back tomorrow, 7 to 10. Up next, Mavs Suns Game 2. It's only going to be 4 games in this series, so enjoy it. Bye, Mom.
What good is a beautiful lawn if bugs and pests keep you from going out and enjoying it? Let Ryan Lawn & Tree keep bugs and pests out of your home and out of your lawn. Take 50% off your first home insect barrier treatment this week at ryanlawn.com.
The CFOs that get it, get it. The CFOs that don't. Behold the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer. This isn't some bean count.